Modern science has proven that there is only one race, one species of humanity. Our DNA is 99.9% the same, and all of humanity initially came from Africa. Some of the early humans started leaving the African continent some 200,000 to 60,000 years ago. The story of humanity is about migration and breeding. Disparate groups of humans not only intermingled with each other, but with other groups of humans including the Neanderthals and Denisovans. There is only one race of Homo sapiens, we're all related, one family, and we share ancestors all the way back to Africa if records would go back that far, which they don't. The story of civilization, group identity, and things like writing to tell us the stories of the past weren't written down until the first alphabet and writings were penned back in ancient Sumeria about 3400 BC. Writing followed town and settlement building, which was afforded by the invention of agriculture about 12,000 years ago. It is through this contextual lens that this high-level view and video remembers the atrocities of the Holocaust for two purposes. One, to honor the dead, and second, so that the Holocaust is never repeated. 6 million Jews were exterminated in the Holocaust, as well as 5 million political prisoners, Romas, gays, disabled, and others at the hands of the Nazi captors. To truly cover the subject, it is imperative that we make a contextual connection between the hatred that the Nazis felt to their victims as well as understanding the victims themselves. To do that, we must discuss who the Jewish people are and how antisemitism was invented and used for nefarious purposes, including scapegoating or blaming ills on others, going back millennia, as well as tell the story of the other victims of the Holocaust. Future videos will discuss the importance and contributions of the Jews and the other peoples persecuted in the Holocaust to world history, culture, and civilization, as well as the importance of Judaism and the founding of the Abrahamic religions of which Christianity and Islam derive. But first, what was the Holocaust? The Holocaust was the most genocidal act in all of recorded human history, and unfolded during the tumultuous period of World War II. It was a systematic, state-sponsored genocide orchestrated by Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime, aiming to annihilate the Jewish people and other targeted groups. But who are the Jews, and why did Hitler try to annihilate them? And why did he use them as a scapegoat? The origins of the Jewish people trace back to ancient times, shaped by a rich tapestry of history, culture, and religious tradition. This is not a comprehensive timeline. Recent DNA research has suggested that the ancient Israelites came from the Caucasus or eastern Anatolia, as do many of the Europeans alive today, as well as from the ancient Canaanites as do modern Israelites and Palestinian populations. The concepts of modern racism didn't exist in these times. Peoples across cultures and borders were known to be related, but, in the story of humanity, one could argue that the first act of prejudice and discrimination was that of Cain when he murdered Abel. As peoples developed permanent settlements, and later culture and a sense of group belonging, groups not only defended themselves from others, they attacked others for wealth, land, and resources. According to biblical narratives, the patriarch Abraham plays a pivotal role in the establishment of the Jewish lineage around 1800 BCE. 2024 in the Jewish calendar is 5784 for reference. Using the name or writing of the name of the Creator is not to be used or pronounced except during Yom Kippur, the holiday of atonement and repentance, by the high priest, so for the purpose of this video, we will refer to the Creator as Hashem, or the name, a common reference and substitute. Abraham, considered the father of the Hebrews, made a covenant with Hashem and migrated from Ur, Mesopotamia to the Levant and modern-day Israel. Some later migrated to Egypt, possibly because of famine, about 450 years prior to Exodus. The story of the Exodus around 1250 BCE and the parting of the Red Sea from Egypt, led by Moses, further solidifies the Jewish identity, marking their liberation from slavery and Hashem's continued benevolence to them. The giving of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Jewish Bible, at Mount Sinai, forms the basis of Jewish religious law and moral principles. And Moses' descendants were chosen by the Hashem to be the chosen people, the Creator's most beloved treasure of all peoples, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. The Torah, Exodus chapter 19 verses 3 through 6. Over centuries, the Israelites, Hebrews, or Jews, as they came to be known, experienced periods of prosperity, conquest, and exile. Their kingdoms created and destroyed, as well as their temples. The construction of the first temple in Jerusalem became a symbol of their unity under King Solomon. However, the Babylonian exile and subsequent return marked a transformative period, influencing religious practices and shaping the collective identity. The destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 CE led to the dispersion of Jews, known as the diaspora, resulting in a global presence. Despite challenges and persecutions throughout history, the Jewish people have preserved their distinct heritage, contributing significantly to various societies and cultures. Today, their story stands as a testament to resilience, faith, and the enduring strength of cultural identity. The Jewish diaspora, a pivotal chapter in Jewish history, unfolds as a narrative of dispersion and resilience. After captivity in Egypt and the founding of Judah around 1250 BCE, the Jewish people later endured the conquest of their homeland in 598 BCE by the Babylonians and then expulsion from Judah. They were allowed to return, which some did in 538 BCE. This marked the beginning of a widespread scattering across different regions, shaping a diverse network of Jewish communities. The Roman Empire played a significant role, with the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE prompting a large-scale dispersion. Over centuries, Jews settled in various parts of the world, contributing to the rich tapestry of global cultures. Despite geographical distances, a shared cultural and religious identity has bound the dispersed Jewish communities. The challenges faced by Jews in the diaspora range from discriminatory policies and expulsions to periods of relative acceptance and flourishing cultural exchange. The diaspora, characterized by adaptability and tenacity, has become a defining feature of Jewish history, influencing traditions, languages, and social dynamics across continents. In modern times, the establishment of the State of Israel has added a complex layer to the diaspora narrative, offering a homeland while maintaining the global interconnectedness of Jewish communities. The story of the Jewish diaspora is one of endurance, cultural enrichment, and the enduring strength of a shared heritage. A new branch of Judaism arose with the birth of Jesus Christ in about 5 BCE. Jesus and his original followers, the Christian disciples and apostles, believed that Jesus was the Son of Hashem and was the Messiah discussed in the sacred Jewish texts. When Jesus was killed in 33 BCE, modern antisemitism didn't exist. It's essential to remember that Jesus and all of his early followers were Jewish. As the religion spread from Israel, non-Jews, the Gentiles, converted to Christianity. Some wanted to convert the remaining Jews to Christianity, while others claimed to believe that all Jews, save for the original followers, were responsible for Jesus' death. This quantum leap away from rationalism would be akin to blaming and hating all Americans for the creation of nuclear weapons today. Like racism, it was used as an excuse and justification to subjugate, enslave, colonize, discriminate and murder ever since. This irrational narrative negates common sense, history, and ignores the scientific fact that we are all one race, one humanity. Christianity was born from Judaism, not separate from it. Christians owe their entire religion and Jesus to Hashem and Judaism. The Catholic Church didn't officially renounce the accusation of blaming the Jews for Jesus' death until the Second Vatican Council in 1960. In the ancient tapestry of Roman history, Jewish life wove a distinctive thread, reflecting a complex interplay of assimilation and resistance. From the early days of the Roman Republic to the expansive reach of the Roman Empire, Jews established communities in various regions. Rome, a melting pot of cultures, witnessed the integration of Jewish residents who engaged in trade, commerce, and diverse professions. The Jewish community in Rome, though often marginalized, maintained a resilient identity shaped by religious practices, including synagogues and communal gatherings. The Hellenistic influence prevalent in Rome during this era added layers to Jewish cultural expression. However, clashes arose, particularly during periods of political instability, leading to sporadic persecutions. The Roman conquest of Jerusalem in 70 CE and the destruction of the Second Temple marked a significant turning point, impacting the Jewish diaspora. Despite challenges, Jewish life in ancient Rome endured, leaving an indelible imprint on the city's cultural mosaic. The archaeological remnants, including catacombs and inscriptions, provide glimpses into the complexities of Jewish existence within the expansive reach of the Roman Empire. Within the vast expanse of the Roman Empire, the Jewish community encountered a series of trials, marked by instances of persecution and discrimination. The ancient world, known for its diversity, posed challenges for minority groups, and Jews were no exception. Tensions escalated during periods of political instability, prompting discriminatory measures against Jewish practices. The Roman authorities, at times, viewed Jewish customs and religious observances with suspicion, leading to restrictions on public expressions of faith. Monotheism in a polytheistic world meant that Jews could not worship the Roman gods. Under Emperor Tiberius, Jews faced expulsion from Rome in 19 CE, reflecting a tumultuous relationship between the Jewish community and the imperial power. The destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE following the Roman conquest of Jerusalem intensified hostilities, and Jews encountered increased marginalization. Emperor Hadrian's policies further exacerbated the situation, with the suppression of Jewish revolts resulting in severe consequences, including the renaming of Jerusalem as Aelia Capitolina. Despite these challenges, Jewish communities resiliently persisted, adapting to the evolving landscape while maintaining cultural and religious identity. The instances of persecution and discrimination in the Roman Empire underscore the complexities of coexistence in an era defined by shifting power dynamics and cultural clashes. As the Roman Empire transitioned to Christianity, the shift in religious dynamics brought forth new challenges for the Jewish community. Christian views of Jews often perpetuated stereotypes and fueled anti-Semitic sentiments, contributing to a heightened atmosphere of discrimination. Theological differences and the perception of Jews as Christ killers fueled animosity, fostering an environment in which Jews faced not only religious prejudice but also acts of cruelty and barbarity. Instances of forced conversions, pogroms, and the desecration of synagogues became distressingly common. The Fourth Lateran Council in 1215, under Pope Innocent III, imposed further restrictions on Jewish life, reinforcing their marginalized status. The cumulative impact of theological animosity and discriminatory policies during this period cast a long shadow on the Jewish experience in the Roman Empire, leaving scars that resonated through subsequent centuries. During the historical panorama of the Crusades, a somber chapter unfolds wherein the role of these holy wars significantly contributed to the intensification of anti-Semitic views. Launched with the purported aim of reclaiming Jerusalem from Muslim control, the Crusades became fertile ground for the propagation of religious fervor, often accompanied by deep-seated prejudices. As Christian armies embarked on their journeys to the Holy Land, encounters with Jewish communities along the way became opportunities for hostility. Jews were often viewed as the other, and anti-Semitic rhetoric gained momentum, fueled by a toxic blend of religious zeal and unfounded accusations. Pogroms and violence against Jewish populations became distressingly common, with massacres occurring in various European regions. The Crusades not only failed in their primary objective but left a lasting legacy of bitterness and animosity towards Jews. The deepening of anti-Semitic views during this tumultuous period set a precedent, casting shadows that would persist through subsequent eras, shaping the trajectory of Jewish-Christian relations in the medieval world. Amidst the tumultuous epoch of the Crusades, history recounts a distressing narrative of violent acts perpetrated against Jewish communities. Initiated with the avowed goal of reclaiming Jerusalem, the Crusades unleashed a wave of religious fervor that often escalated into hostility towards those perceived as religious outsiders. Jewish communities, situated along the paths of crusading armies, became targets of unfounded accusations and brutal assaults. Pogroms erupted across Europe, with Jews facing pillage, forced conversions, and mass killings. The First Crusade, in particular, witnessed egregious acts of violence, such as the massacre in the Rhineland where thousands of Jews perished. The fervent zeal of crusaders, fueled by religious fervor and a distorted sense of righteousness, created an atmosphere of terror for Jewish inhabitants. The violence inflicted upon Jewish communities during the Crusades left a painful imprint on the historical tapestry, marking a tragic chapter in the enduring struggle against prejudice and persecution. The small number of Jews with resources often found themselves involved in moneylending, a role shaped by a complex interplay of historical, social, and religious factors. Due to Christian prohibitions against usury, which involved charging interest on loans, Jews became key figures in financial transactions. The Church's restrictions on lending practices did not extend to Jews, providing them with an economic niche. However, this financial involvement also became a double-edged sword. While it offered economic opportunities, it also fueled anti-Semitic sentiments. The association between Jews and money lending led to the perpetuation of negative stereotypes, with Jews being unfairly characterized as usurers and manipulators. As economic conditions fluctuated, and rulers sought to alleviate debt burdens, scapegoating Jews became a convenient outlet, contributing to the deepening of anti-Semitic attitudes. The economic role of Jews in money lending during the Middle Ages thus became a source of both economic opportunity and enduring prejudice. In the labyrinthine passages of medieval history, the Middle Ages bore witness to a series of profound and tragic events, the expulsions of Jewish communities from various European countries. This unsettling chapter unfolded as Jews, who had settled in different regions, faced recurring waves of forced displacement. These expulsions were often precipitated by a toxic blend of religious intolerance, economic scapegoating, and political turmoil. In England, the Edict of Expulsion in 1290 under King Edward I marked the banishment of Jewish residents, stripping them of their homes and possessions. Spain, in 1492, enacted the Alhambra Decree under Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile, resulting in the expulsion of Jews who chose not to convert to Christianity. Similar waves of expulsion transpired in France, Germany, and other European realms, perpetuating a cycle of displacement and upheaval. These events, rooted in prejudice and power dynamics, left indelible scars on the Jewish diaspora, underscoring the challenging coexistence within the medieval European landscape. In the intricate tapestry of medieval history, the Middle Ages bore witness to a disheartening array of discriminatory laws and restrictions imposed upon Jewish communities. Woven into the fabric of religious and socio-political dynamics, these measures created a fraught environment for Jews across Europe. The establishment of ghettos, segregated living spaces for Jews, became a tangible manifestation of discrimination. Restrictive laws, such as dress codes and distinctive badges, were enforced to isolate and stigmatize Jewish populations. Economic limitations further marginalized Jews, restricting their professions and economic activities. The Fourth Lateran Council in 1215, convened by Pope Innocent III, imposed harsh decrees, compelling Jews to wear distinctive clothing and limiting their interactions with Christians. These legal restrictions, often embedded in religious doctrine, fueled an atmosphere of segregation and reinforced negative stereotypes. The cumulative impact of these discriminatory laws contributed to the perpetuation of anti-Semitic sentiments, leaving an enduring mark on the social and cultural landscape of the Middle Ages. In the unfolding pages of history, the Inquisition emerges as a significant chapter, characterized by its establishment and underlying purpose. Originating in the 12th century, the Inquisition was an institutionalized effort within the Catholic Church to combat perceived heresy. Its primary purpose was to identify, suppress, and eradicate deviations from orthodox religious beliefs, aiming to preserve doctrinal purity and authority. The establishment of the Inquisition reflected a response to the perceived threats posed by religious dissent, particularly the Cathar heresy in southern France. Initially, the Inquisition operated through local bishops, but in the 13th century, Pope Gregory IX formalized it by appointing specialized inquisitors. Their authority extended to investigating heresy, conducting trials, and imposing punishments. The Inquisition's methods included interrogation, torture, and the use of inquisitorial tribunals. While its intensity varied across regions and periods, the Inquisition left an indelible mark on European history, shaping the dynamics between religious authority and individual beliefs. Born out of a desire to combat heresy within the Catholic Church, the Inquisition became a tool that extended its reach beyond its original scope. Jewish communities found themselves ensnared in the web of suspicion, as the Inquisition expanded its focus to target perceived deviations from orthodox beliefs. This era witnessed the forced conversions of Jews, who faced the choice of embracing Christianity or enduring severe consequences. The expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492, as a result of the Alhambra decree, marked a particularly dark moment, creating a wave of displacement and hardship. The Inquisition's methods, including torture and persecution, cast a long shadow, fostering an atmosphere of fear and deepening anti-Semitic sentiments. The impact of the Inquisition rippled through history, leaving scars on the collective memory of Jewish communities and contributing to the perpetuation of negative stereotypes and prejudice. In the vibrant tapestry of the Renaissance, a period marked by intellectual and cultural revival, some Jewish communities experienced shifts in status that departed from the constraints of the Middle Ages. As Europe embraced a renewed interest in classical knowledge, Jews found opportunities for greater integration and contribution to the cultural and economic fabric. The Renaissance witnessed a flourishing of Jewish scholarship, with Jewish intellectuals engaging in dialogue with Gentile humanist thinkers. This period saw Jews occupying prominent roles in various fields, including medicine, finance, and the arts. Unlike the restrictive measures of the Middle Ages, some European states granted Jews charters of protection, providing a degree of legal security. However, this era also brought complexities. While some Jewish individuals thrived, others faced continued discrimination, and occasional outbreaks of antisemitism persisted. The Renaissance, nevertheless, signaled a departure from the rigid structures of the Middle Ages, allowing for a more varied and nuanced relationship between Jewish communities and the broader societies in which they lived. But the Renaissance, a time of beauty and blood, didn't mark the end of antisemitism. This European manifest destiny, in the epoch of exploration and colonization, cast a shadow of discrimination upon Jewish communities as they grappled with the burgeoning racism inherent in the doctrine of discovery. This doctrine, formally endorsed by Pope Alexander VI in 1493, granted European powers the divine right to claim lands discovered during their explorations and to convert native populations, by whatever means necessary. Rooted in a prejudiced worldview, the doctrine fueled an irrational development of modern antisemitism and racism. As European powers embarked on colonial ventures, discriminatory ideologies intermingled with the expansionist fervor and acted as the catalyst for all sorts of evil to be perpetuated in the name of white superiority and Christian conversion. Jewish individuals face not only religious biases but also racial prejudices, perpetuating harmful stereotypes. The intersection of colonial ambitions and ingrained bigotry marked a troubling period, with discriminatory practices extending beyond religious realms to shape policies, social attitudes, and power structures. The doctrine of discovery, with its racist underpinnings, became a catalyst for the entwined narratives of anti-Semitism and broader racial bias that unfolded during the exploration and colonization era, leaving a lasting impact on the historical legacy of discrimination. Amidst the transformative currents of the Age of Reason, the impact of Enlightenment ideals on Jewish rights emerged as a pivotal narrative, ushering in a period of profound change. Enlightenment thinkers championed reason, individual liberty, and equality, challenging traditional norms and fostering a spirit of inclusivity. For Jewish communities, this intellectual movement offered a glimmer of hope, as Enlightenment principles began to dismantle long-standing discriminatory practices. The call for religious tolerance gained momentum, challenging the restrictions that had constrained Jewish rights for centuries. Influential figures advocated for the equal treatment of Jews, challenging prevailing prejudices. As Enlightenment ideals permeated societal consciousness, some European states began to enact legal reforms, affording Jews greater rights and opportunities. This era witnessed the gradual dismantling of discriminatory laws and restrictions, paving the way for Jewish individuals to participate more fully in civic life. While challenges persisted, the Age of Reason marked a transformative chapter in the trajectory of Jewish rights, aligning with the broader pursuit of human dignity and equality. While Enlightenment thinkers advocated for reason, individual liberties, and the dismantling of discriminatory practices, the application of these ideals remained inconsistent. Anti-Semitic prejudices endured in various forms, challenging the notion of universal equality. Some Enlightenment thinkers, paradoxically, held on to prejudiced views, perpetuating stereotypes about Jews. Social attitudes, deeply rooted in historical biases, often resisted the full realization of Enlightenment principles for Jewish communities. Despite legal reforms in certain European states, discrimination lingered, limiting the extent to which Jews could fully participate in society. The Enlightenment, while a beacon of progress, revealed the complexity of societal transformation, highlighting the persistent challenges in overcoming deeply ingrained prejudices and biases that persisted despite the intellectual advancements of the era. Amidst the transformative upheavals of the Industrial Revolution, the specter of anti-Semitism persisted, casting a shadow on the societal shifts and technological advancements of the era. The rapid industrialization and urbanization that characterized this period also brought about changes in social dynamics. Unfortunately, Jewish communities often found themselves facing discrimination and prejudice as they navigated the evolving landscape. Stereotypes and biases, deeply rooted in historical prejudices, endured. Economic changes, including the rise of capitalism, sometimes fueled anti-Semitic sentiments, with Jews being scapegoated for societal challenges. While the Industrial Revolution marked a period of innovation and progress, it also reflected the persistent struggles against deeply ingrained biases that continued to shape the experiences of Jewish communities during this transformative era. In America, the end of the Civil War saw the founding of the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, in 1865 or 1866, in Pulaski, Tennessee, which is rooted in the broader context of racism, xenophobia, and white supremacy that characterized the Klan's ideology. While the KKK initially emerged in the aftermath of the Civil War as an organization primarily targeting African Americans, its anti-Semitic sentiments grew over time, reflecting a broader hatred toward various minority groups. Initially, its main focus was to resist the Reconstruction efforts and intimidate newly freed African Americans who were gaining civil rights. The Klan's early activities included acts of violence, terrorism, and political intimidation against African Americans and sympathetic white individuals. As the Klan evolved, it expanded its targets beyond African Americans to include other minority groups perceived as threats to the white supremacist ideology, including Catholics. Although there were only roughly 250,000 Jews in America by 1880, most coming from poverty-stricken German nations, many Jews felt discrimination in their new homeland, and anti-Semitism became an integral part of the Klan's rhetoric and actions, with Jewish individuals becoming victims of Klan violence and discrimination. The anti-Semitic beliefs propagated by the KKK were often rooted in conspiratorial thinking, depicting Jews as part of a supposed global conspiracy to undermine white Christian dominance. These beliefs were fueled by unfounded stereotypes and prejudices against Jewish communities, and their ideology continues to find adherents today in alt-right movements like Make America Great Again. The Klan experienced different waves of activity, with the second wave in the early 20th century being particularly significant. During this period, the Klan's influence expanded beyond the southern United States to the Midwest and even some northern states. Antisemitism was a prominent feature in the Klan's propaganda, publications, and public speeches during this time. The Klan's antisemitism was often intertwined with anti-immigrant sentiments, as Jewish immigrants were targeted alongside other immigrant groups. The Klan viewed immigration as a threat to its vision of a racially homogeneous America dominated by white Protestants. The KKK, through its activities and propaganda, played a role in spreading and reinforcing anti-Semitic stereotypes and prejudices within the communities it targeted. The Klan's violent actions and intimidation tactics were not limited to racial minorities but extended to anyone perceived as a threat to its narrow vision of American society. While the influence of the KKK declined significantly in the mid-20th century, it experienced a resurgence in the 1960s in response to the civil rights movement. During this resurgence, the Klan continued to promote anti-Semitism alongside its racist ideologies. In the present day, some factions and individuals associated with white supremacist movements still harbor anti-Semitic beliefs. The Klan, though diminished compared to its historical peak, remains a symbol of racial hatred and intolerance. The dynamic of anti-Semitism within the KKK reflects the broader pattern of using prejudice and discrimination against various minority groups to advance a supremacist ideology. Understanding this historical context is essential for addressing the roots of hatred and working towards a society that values diversity, tolerance, and equality. In the opulent tapestry of the Gilded Age, marked by ostentatious wealth and industrial expansion, the dark thread of anti-Semitism woven into the fabric of society remained. As America experienced unprecedented economic growth and social transformation, Jewish communities faced persistent discrimination and bias. Stereotypes and prejudiced views, rooted in historical antipathy, continued to shape public opinion. The growth of corporate power and the emergence of powerful industrialists did not eradicate discriminatory attitudes. Instead, it sometimes exacerbated them. Jewish individuals encountered barriers in various aspects of life, from professional spheres to social interactions. The Gilded Age, while characterized by glittering affluence, revealed the enduring struggles against deeply ingrained prejudices that marred the experiences of Jewish communities during this era of ostensible prosperity. In the progressive currents of the early 20th century, the persistence of anti-Semitism cast a shadow over the aspirations for social reform and positive change. Despite the era's focus on addressing social injustices, Jewish communities encountered lingering prejudices. The period witnessed the emergence of discriminatory practices, both socially and institutionally. Jews faced exclusion from certain clubs, job opportunities, and social circles, reflecting deeply rooted biases. The rise of nativism and xenophobia further fueled anti-Semitic sentiments, with stereotypes perpetuating unfounded fears about Jewish influence. Despite the progressive ethos advocating for equality, the reality for Jewish individuals often fell short of these ideals. The progressive era, while marking strides towards societal improvement, underscores the challenges in dismantling ingrained prejudices that persisted even in the pursuit of broader social justice goals. In the troubling history of racism and anti-Semitism, the application of pseudo-scientific methods served as a disturbing justification for discriminatory practices, including the implementation of Jim Crow laws. Pseudoscience, marked by flawed methodologies and biased interpretations, was wielded to legitimize prejudiced ideologies and institutionalize racial hierarchies. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as racial theories gained prominence, pseudo-scientific ideas permeated academic circles. Misinterpretations of the still evolving field of evolutionary biology and selective readings of anthropology were employed to construct erroneous hierarchies, positioning certain racial and ethnic groups as inferior or superior. In the case of anti-Semitism, pseudo-scientific views portrayed Jews as genetically predisposed to negative traits, reinforcing age-old stereotypes. The pseudoscience of eugenics further fueled discriminatory practices. Advocates argued that selective breeding could improve the genetic quality of the population, leading to policies such as forced sterilization and restrictions on immigration based on racial and ethnic criteria. These measures were justified using the veneer of scientific legitimacy, perpetuating harmful ideologies. The rationale behind Jim Crow laws, implemented primarily in the southern United States, rested on a distorted interpretation of social Darwinism and eugenics. Pseudo-scientific justifications were used to argue for the separation of races in public spaces, claiming it was a necessary measure to maintain social order and prevent the alleged degeneration of the white race. In the annals of history, the name Henry Ford resonates not only for his pioneering contributions to the automotive industry but also for his regrettable involvement in disseminating anti-Semitic propaganda. During the early 20th century, Ford, a prominent industrialist and founder of the Ford Motor Company, used his influence to propagate harmful stereotypes and conspiracy theories about Jewish people. His newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, became a platform for spreading anti-Semitic views, fueled by unfounded accusations and prejudiced narratives. The infamous The International Jew series, compiled and published by Ford, perpetuated harmful tropes about Jewish influence in various spheres, contributing to the intensification of anti-Semitic sentiments during that time. Despite later disassociating himself from the content and issuing an apology, Ford's role in the dissemination of anti-Semitic propaganda remains a stain on his legacy, underscoring the potential dangers when influential figures with more money than brains misuse their platforms to promote harmful ideologies. But worse yet, this was a profound repudiation of not only the Jewish people, but their culture, epitomized in a new caricature of an entire people. For more recent examples, think of the witches in Disney's anti-Semitic 1937 movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or the contrasted parody in the subversive and anti-fascist movie, The Wizard of Oz, in 1939 of the Wicked Witch of the West to her more Aryan counterpart, Glinda, the Good Witch, a topic for a future video. The misuse of pseudoscience to define and justify racism and anti-Semitism underscores the dangerous intersection of flawed scientific reasoning and discriminatory ideologies. It reveals how seemingly objective language and terminology were manipulated to provide a veneer of legitimacy for policies that perpetuated systemic inequality and racial oppression with no real scientific fact to back up these evil assertions. Understanding this history is crucial for dismantling the enduring legacies of racism and anti-Semitism in contemporary society, as well as to understand the underlying rationale of the Nazis' racist and inhumane ideology. Tied into these ideologies was the eugenics movement, the term coined by British scholar Sir Francis Galton, cousin to Charles Darwin. Emerging in the late 19th and early 20th centuries America, eugenics sought to apply principles of selective breeding to humans in an attempt to improve the genetic quality of the population. However, these ideas were often intertwined with discriminatory ideologies, including anti-Semitic beliefs. Advocates of eugenics promoted harmful stereotypes about specific ethnic and religious groups, including Jews. Around 70,000 people have been sterilized in America, especially African American, Latina, and Native American women, and some men as well as people with disabilities in the name of eugenics. Pseudo-scientific views on race and genetics fueled unfounded claims about the supposed genetic inferiority of Jewish individuals, among others. The eugenics movement's influence, while not uniform, underscored the dangerous potential of using scientific language to legitimize discriminatory views, contributing to the perpetuation of anti-Semitic sentiments during a turbulent period of ideological fervor. One of the key intersections between eugenics and anti-Semitism lay in the propagation of harmful stereotypes about Jewish individuals. Pseudo-scientific views on race and genetics were exploited to portray Jews as genetically inferior, reinforcing baseless claims about intelligence, behavior, and other characteristics, a tactic long used by racists on the wrong side of history, usually lashing out a means to protect some potential perceived loss to their wealth, status, or station in life. As an example, President Lincoln was called an ape by many a secessionist before the Civil War. These unfounded beliefs became part of the broader fabric of anti-Semitic ideologies, contributing to discriminatory attitudes, and unfortunately, there are some in the world who will listen to the person who shouts the loudest, no matter how many lies are uttered. A recurrent theme of nationalism, populism, and fascism. Just look at the so far enduring popularity of Donald Trump. The notorious Nuremberg laws enacted by Nazi Germany in the 1930s illustrate the toxic marriage between eugenics and anti-Semitism. These laws, informed by eugenic principles, institutionalized racial purity and targeted Jews with discriminatory regulations, marking a tragic culmination of the links between pseudo-scientific eugenics and anti-Semitic ideologies. We'll discuss the Nuremberg laws and Nazism shortly. The misuse of scientific language in the service of discriminatory beliefs underscores the danger of distorting research for ideological, economic, or political ends. The links between eugenics and anti-Semitism demonstrate how ostensibly objective scientific concepts can be manipulated to legitimize prejudice, leading to devastating consequences for targeted communities. Understanding this historical connection is essential for recognizing and combating the enduring legacies of discriminatory ideologies that persist in contemporary society. The involvement of Jewish individuals and communities in World War I was widespread and diverse, reflecting their commitment to the countries in which they lived and the varied roles they played during this pivotal period. Jewish participation in the war was not confined to a singular perspective or allegiance. Rather, it mirrored the complexity of Jewish experiences across different nations. In many countries, Jews enthusiastically joined the war effort, driven by a sense of patriotism and a desire to contribute to the defense of their homelands. Jewish soldiers served in the armed forces of various nations, fighting on both the Allied and Central Powers sides. Their contributions were significant, with Jewish soldiers displaying courage and dedication on the front lines. Simultaneously, Jewish communities faced challenges and discrimination during World War I. Anti-Semitic sentiments persisted, and Jews encountered suspicion and scapegoating in some regions. The complexities of Jewish involvement in the war were heightened by the political landscape of the time, as the war coincided with the tumultuous events leading to the Balfour Declaration and the subsequent discussions on the establishment of a Jewish homeland. One notable aspect of Jewish involvement in World War I was the emergence of prominent Jewish figures who played key roles in political and military spheres. For instance, Chaim Weizmann, a leading Zionist and scientist, contributed to the Allied war effort and later played a crucial role in the Balfour Declaration. The aftermath of World War I had lasting implications for Jewish communities, particularly in Eastern Europe where the war had redrawn national borders. The political upheavals and the redrawing of maps created new challenges for Jewish populations, and the seeds were sown for subsequent geopolitical shifts. Jewish involvement in World War I was multifaceted, encompassing military service, political activism, and contributions to the war effort. The experiences of Jewish individuals during this time were shaped by a complex interplay of patriotism, discrimination, and the evolving political landscape. Understanding the diverse roles played by Jews in World War I contributes to a nuanced comprehension of their historical contributions and challenges during this transformative period. The period during and after World War I witnessed a complex tapestry of contradictions in anti-Semitic views, reflecting the dynamic and multifaceted nature of attitudes towards Jewish communities. As the world grappled with the aftermath of the war, these contradictions manifested in various ways, from political rhetoric to social dynamics. One glaring contradiction emerged in the military contributions of Jewish soldiers during World War I. Despite their valiant service on the front lines, some segments of society continued to perpetuate anti-Semitic stereotypes. The paradoxical scenario of Jewish soldiers fighting for their respective nations while simultaneously facing discrimination underscored the dissonance within anti-Semitic views. Political developments in the aftermath of World War I also brought contradictions to the forefront. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, expressing British support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, reflected a seemingly positive shift. However, this apparent endorsement of Jewish aspirations coexisted with continued anti-Semitic sentiments in various political spheres, revealing an inherent contradiction in policy and practice. The emergence of Zionist leaders like Chaim Weizmann, who played a key role in diplomatic efforts during and after the war, further highlighted contradictions. Zionism, a political and ideological movement rooted in the desire for a national homeland for the Jewish people, gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The term Zionism was coined by Theodor Herzl, a Viennese journalist, in the late 19th century. Herzl's seminal work, The Jewish State, published in 1896, articulated the need for a sovereign Jewish homeland to address rising anti-Semitism. The First Zionist Congress in 1897 marked a crucial moment, where Herzl and other leaders convened to discuss the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. However, during World War I, the political landscape shifted with the Balfour Declaration. This declaration, coupled with developments in international geopolitics, laid the groundwork for the Zionist movement's aspirations as well the yet unanswered questions of a peace and two-state solution for the related Jewish and Palestinian peoples. The Weimar Republic that emerged in post-war Germany presented both challenges and opportunities for Zionism, as Jewish communities navigated a complex socio-political environment. While these leaders contributed to the Zionist cause, anti-Semitic views persisted in other arenas, creating a paradox where Jews were simultaneously recognized for their political acumen and subjected to discriminatory beliefs. The aftermath of World War I left Germany in a state of profound turmoil, both economically and politically. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh reparations on Germany, exacerbating the economic difficulties facing the German people. The war had depleted the country's resources, and the reparations burden intensified economic hardships. Hyperinflation soared, rendering the German mark nearly worthless and causing widespread economic distress. The price of bread could rise throughout the day. The situation was bleak. The situation fueled social unrest and discontent among the populace. Amidst this backdrop, the Weimar Republic emerged as a nascent democratic government, established in the aftermath of the war. Instituted in 1919, the Weimar Republic faced formidable challenges as it grappled with economic crises, political instability, and societal discontent. The Republic's early years witnessed attempts to stabilize the economy, but these efforts often fell short, contributing to a climate of frustration and disillusionment. The Weimar Republic's efforts to address economic challenges were further complicated by political turmoil. Radical ideologies, both from the left and the right, gained traction as Germans sought alternatives to the perceived failures of the Republic. Paramilitary groups engaged in street violence, and political polarization escalated. The economic hardships became intertwined with political unrest, creating a volatile environment. The pivotal year of 1923 marked a turning point. Hyperinflation reached catastrophic levels, with citizens wheeling barrows of money to buy basic goods. The economic collapse and societal discontent set the stage for the infamous Beer Hall Putsch in 1923, an attempt by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party to seize power. The failure of the putsch led to Hitler's imprisonment but also laid the groundwork for the Nazi rise to power in the subsequent years. The mid-1920s brought a brief period of relative stability and economic improvement to the Weimar Republic, known as the Golden Twenties. However, this respite was short-lived. The global economic downturn in the late 1920s, compounded by the Great Depression, dealt a severe blow to Germany's fragile economic recovery. Unemployment soared, and poverty became widespread, fostering a breeding ground for extremist ideologies, as is often the case. Some people just like to find innocent scapegoats for difficulties in life, especially when those same difficulties are self-inflicted. The economic difficulties, coupled with political fragmentation and ideological polarization, set the stage for the Weimar Republic's ultimate downfall. In 1933, amidst the economic and political crises, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor, marking the end of the Weimar Republic and the beginning of the darkest chapter in human history. The fall of Germany after World War I and the economic difficulties faced by the German people were instrumental in the rise and fall of the Weimar Republic. The economic hardships, compounded by political instability, created an environment ripe for radical ideologies. The Weimar Republic's inability to navigate these challenges effectively ultimately paved the way for the ascension of Adolf Hitler and the demise of democratic governance in Germany. Life for German Jews during the aftermath of World War I and the subsequent years of the Weimar Republic was marked by a complex interplay of economic difficulties, social changes, and the rise of antisemitism. The destruction Germany faced after the war had profound implications for the Jewish community. In the immediate aftermath of World War I, economic challenges and social unrest affected German Jews alongside the broader population. Hyperinflation and economic instability disproportionately impacted Jews, who, despite their contributions to various sectors, faced discrimination and scapegoating. Jews were often wrongly blamed for Germany's economic troubles, leading to an increase in anti-Semitic sentiments. The establishment of the Weimar Republic brought about political changes, including the formal granting of equal rights to Jewish citizens. While some Jews thrived in the arts, sciences, and business during the Golden Twenties, others faced rising anti-Semitism. Radical political factions, such as the Nazis, exploited economic hardships and societal discontent, fueling anti-Semitic propaganda that scapegoated Jews for Germany's problems. The economic collapse in the early 1920s and the subsequent Great Depression intensified anti-Semitism. Jews were targeted as convenient scapegoats, and discriminatory policies gained traction. The Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, capitalized on the economic hardships and societal discontent, promoting an aggressive and virulent form of anti-Semitism. The Nazis propagated the false notion of a Jewish conspiracy to undermine Germany and exploited existing prejudices. The impact of anti-Semitism culminated in the atrocities of the Holocaust during World War II. The destruction Germany faced after World War I provided fertile ground for the growth of extremist ideologies, contributing to the rise of the Nazi regime and the implementation of genocidal policies.